And now we're going to look at the first of the broken authentication subheadings. And one of them is going to be the password complexity, and the other is going information leakage. And so it's important to understand that broken authentication can be broken in different ways. And these are two of the kind of biggest issues out there. And we're going to look at a very simple case of password complexity not being satisfied. And I've created my own login controller. And that's kind of an important thing to mention, because if we have a library that we're using, like suppose there's something called Devise for Rails, and most popular web application frameworks have their own popular tools. And so that's going to be really important to understand the distinction. One thing is where you're writing all the code yourself and you're trying to solve all the problems that have been solved by many other people before. And in another case, you already get the benefit of the expertise of security experts and testers and researchers being applied and continually updated. So for example, here I wrote this logins controller, and then I'm creating the login. So basically when somebody submits a username and password, so I'll show you where the username and password are in my code. So here it is. So when I'm logging in, there's a username box, there's a password box, and create login, which can mean, just log in, right? And so here it tries to find the user, and then after it finds the user, it sees if the user and the login param password. So basically, the password sent in from the form and the one from the user in the database, if they match. If they match, then it says success, and so it lets the user in. And we'll cover some of the other issues in a second. So you'll see that I can just get in, and the other thing here we'll cover as well, the plain text password, and it's successful. So that's my password is just test, T-E-S-T. And so when I'm creating a new user, I can just create a very small password, even smaller, and it's not going to complain. And then when I try to log in, and then let's see, there we go. So once I have the username password, it lets me in. So this is an issue. And the way that we can start to combat this is that when we are creating our user, we can say, don't allow small passwords, right? So if user params, and we can say password, we're getting both the password confirmation and the password, but we can just say if user params password length, let's say, to enforce it at first, right? If user params password size length, right, is less than 8, right? We can just say redirect to user, and here we want to send the user back to wherever it is that we originally got them from. So in this case, it'll be the new user path. And we can put in an alert that says something like password too short. And there we go. And otherwise, we can go on with our code execution, the rest of this. Let's just properly indent this. And so when we try a new sign up, try it getting 3, and we try it with, so you'll see that it redirected us back Unfortunately, it's not showing our expected message, so we're going to fix that in a second. And you'll see that the notice was not displayed, but it did not create the new user, right? Because the length was too short. And that's a good sign. That means that our validation is working. And so if we try it with a new user and we put in a password which is long enough, there we go, the user was successfully created. So what we're finding out is that it's really up to us in this case when we're writing the code by hand to figure out why certain things are not secure enough and how we are going to get around it. And that can be a real problem because when we are responsible for everything, it's much easier to make mistakes, like we saw. So let's now take a look at how to fix that notice. So the way that we are going to get the notice to show up is we're going to add this helper on top. It's just notice, a Rails helper method. And so when we try this again, we are going to see that just having test is too short. And that's all we need here. So that's our password complexity error and resolution.